Hello guys, my name is Lars Stender. I'm a writer from Denmark who specializes in science fiction and fantasy stories. I'm here today to read from my fantasy book Madigo and the Hounds. And if you want to know more about my work, you can follow me on Facebook at Lars A.R. Stender. Madigo and the Hellhounds, Chapter 43. Madigo cursed and blinked. The demonic feast disappeared and the normal world was back. There was no trace of the demons. There was only Bloodstone, its curtain wall, the guards and the shadows. The remaining guards had apparently not yet discovered that one of their brothers-in-arms had disappeared. Madigo felt like screaming to them and that he should beware of the shadows where the demons were waiting to pounce on them and attack them. But then he saw another of the soldiers pass through a shadowy area without any problem, and his shout of warning got stuck in his throat. Had it all been a dream? Madigo tried yet again to focus on the special shadow with his demon glare, but the shadow demons were now gone. They had all disappeared into thin air without leaving any trace of their previous presence. All, except one. Madigo spotted him in a dark corner between the merlins. It was the same shadow demon that had looked at him a moment earlier. It was now sitting and observing him intently with four flaming red eyes. Its ink-like body shook like jelly, and the very next moment it began to glide between the merlins and down alongside the outer curtain wall. Madigo started to tremble violently, and his mouth grew as dry as sandpaper. He knew that the demon was on its way over to him. Even though he couldn't see it anymore, he could sense its presence. How it slowly crawled along the outer wall, like a fly on the ceiling, slowly moved closer and closer towards him. He wanted to run, flee, but his feet remained glued to the roof of the old tower he was standing on. There was a single brazier at the top of the old tower. It gave off a warm, orange-red glow that slightly flickered in the evening breeze. Madigo managed to take a few steps towards the coal basin. He looked back towards the two parts of the curtain wall that emerged at the old tower. There were guards in both places, but what could they really do? Even though they were dracoids, they were mortal beings of flesh and blood. As long as he stayed away from the shadows, they could perhaps protect him. But what about themselves? Madigo could sense that the shadow demon was very close now. He could almost see it crawling up the outer wall, just a few steps away. Soon, his hideous head would pop up over the merlin. But to Madigo's surprise, it wasn't a shadow demon that appeared first. Instead, a small mannequin came hopping over the wall and landed clumsily in the tower. Ouch! Darn it! The curious mannequin cursed as he rubbed his ankle. Oh, what a nuisance! He got to his feet with difficulty and leaped over to the coal basin. Madigo stared at him disbelievingly. He was no more than 30 centimeters tall and had a gnarled, red-cheeked face and a long grey-white beard. He wore ragged clothes sewn together with miscellaneous small scraps of material and skin, and on his head he wore a brown skull cap that was slightly cocked to the one side. A belt of braided horsehair held his small frock in place about his waist. He stopped for a moment with his back towards the coal basin and stared with a scared and wild look in his eyes back in the direction he had come from. He gasped for air and his lips were pulled back over his teeth, not in anger or as though he was hissing, but more from fear and fatigue. After a moment, he began to toddle irresolutely back and forth. He cast a few long glances to the right and left, as though he were trying to evaluate whether he could pay to run further along either side of the wall or whether he should remain where he was. He stopped abruptly, tossed his head back and looked directly up at Madigo, his grey eyes wide open. What in the world? Are you able to see me? Madigo nodded silently. Well, I'll be damned! Now how can that be? I'm supposed to be invisible to you humans, darn it! Oh, and why is that? Madigo asked. Why? Tell me, have you gone completely out of your mind? Of course you shouldn't be able to see me. I am a castle gnome, We can't see humans, and humans can't see us. That's how it's been for thousands of years. So don't you come here and think you can change that. But I can still see you, Madigo said that. And I can also see that shadow demon that's on its way up the wall. As soon as Madigo had mentioned the demon, the little gnome immediately jumped into the air and cast a terrified look across the wall. Oh, he moaned. I've almost forgotten him. It's terrifyingly terrible. He wants to catch me and eat me. Those cursed shadow devils have already managed to hunt down and butcher my entire family here at the fortress. I'm the last castle gnome left at Bloodstone, and I'll be gone soon too. Oh, what am I to do? Madigo opened his mouth to say something, but didn't get a chance to. With a gurgling, slurping, hissing sound, the predatory shadow demon popped its head up between two windblown merlins. First 2 arms, then 2 more, and finally a long, insect-like leg emerged. But then the demon hesitated. The glow from the coal basin made it keep its distance. For now. Madigo stared at the demon, who stared right back at him. Large, dagger-shaped teeth glistened metallically in his broad jaw, and sulphur-stinking spit trickled down the corner of his mouth. A purple tongue cleaved in 2, with yellow spots, darted out provocatively. But the demon did not come closer. This is crazy, Madigo thought. Here he was, confronting a demon from another dimension, at the top of a tower in a fortress that was protected by hundreds of soldiers that couldn't see what he was doing. Even each and every one of them had surrounded him at this very moment. He felt a light pull at his frock. The little castle gnome was trying to hide in one of its pleats. I can wait, the demon said as he smacked his jaws noisily. By the sound of its voice, it sounded like it was chewing on a slimy forest snail. Its words had the opposite effect to what it had been expecting. Instead of planting fear in Madigo and the castle gnome, it triggered Madigo's simmering fighting spirit. Something or other inside of him burst, and he felt how his gift dived deep into his pent-up anger, where it collected sustenance before it, like a burning lance, rushed out through his arm and right into the jaws of the demon. The entire process took less than a split second, and the shadow demon didn't even get a chance to scream before it was dissolved in a flash of light. Only Madigo and the castle gnome could see it. The brazier blazed up, and the shadow of the night became smaller and seemed to have a much gentler demeanor than it had before. When Madigo had grown, he drew the blood of his frock back and sucked the night air deep into his lungs. He looked at his hands and clenched his fist. At long last, he had managed to gain complete control over his gift. End of chapter.
So, we have a spyfly there.
Yeah.
Running up the...
Yeah.
I was definitely not around to laugh. No. Trying to keep me calm.
Yes.
And now we have a gnome.
Now we have a gnome, yes.
Did he gnome that?
No.
Gnome?
No. It's a no-name gnome.
Okay, so no name to the gnome.
No.
Okay.
Unknown
So that's
gnome.
a gnome
Yes, you're from
idea.
Unknown Gnome's man.
Yeah, how's that? How's that? So, for the first time, he actually have control.
Yes.
Yes. And
he shot from the hip.
Yep.
Up. Wide up.
Totally wide.
Totally wide.
No black.
No black.
No, because that was black.
Yeah, that was black.
So we took some good yin and yang.
Yeah. Yes.
Off with the head.
Strike one demon.
Yes. So now we know he likes gnome as well.
Yeah.
I think that is a weird form for intercourse.
Yep.
I have seen a gnome on Facebook.
Yeah.
You're gonna love that guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send him to you.
You sure?
You're gonna laugh.
Yes.
I'm not joking.
Nope.
You're gonna laugh badly. So, that was good.
Yep.
Let's close it off.